views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. I am pleased and proud to tell you that tonight marks the 23rd anniversary of Bronx Talk. Our first edition was on October 5th, 1994. And between then and now, I have hosted more than 1,100 programs. In fact, this is Bronx Talk number 1,107. And so while I want to thank all the people who have supported the program, including BronxNet's administration and the many people who have worked on the show, past and present, mostly I want to thank you, the people of the Bronx, because you are what this show is about. And so accordingly, tonight on this special night, we have welcomed a couple of you to the program, people of the Bronx who are doing something special. Mostly they are taking photographs of you and of our home and have formed the Bronx Photographers Collaborative. They've got an exhibition coming up. We're going to take a fun and close look at their fantastic collaborative work. So happy 23rd anniversary to me, to us, and mostly to you. And let's welcome exhibition coordinator Ira Merritt. Nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you.
And a member of the board of directors, Claricel Gonzalez. Nice to have you back on the program. It is always of particular joy to me to have my friends on the show. So Ira and Claricel, nice to have you. Ira, let's we'll talk about each of you as photographers, and then also, of course, talk about the work and show and some incredible work, by the way. When did you start taking pictures?
Good question. Seriously?
Before the 23 years of Bronx Talk, probably.
Yeah, 40 years ago.
40 years ago,
Yeah.
and by happenstance, just, oh, by the way, or was this something you wanted to do when you were a much younger man?
Yes. I was interested in photography for a while and took some photographs. And then what happened was I decided to get serious about it. And I was looking at some of the work of Atchie and Cartier-Bresson and Paul Strand. And I saved up my money, and with my wife, we both quit our jobs.
Wow.
And we went to Europe for a year. And I was looking for their Europe. Of course, when I got there, most of it...
What do you mean by their Europe?
The Europe that they photographed.
I see.
This was,
that these photographers had photographed.
Because, you know, the buildings, the atmosphere, but I didn't find too much of that. It was really hard to find.
What a challenge. Now you got to make up something, Mr. Photographer.
It was a challenge because the buildings were sandblasted, so they looked new. And it was a time, this was 1977, 78.
Right.
And it was a time where Europe was sort of looking forward rather than looking back.
So what did you end up doing? I want to move it forward. So you ended up taking pictures?
I did take a lot of photographs, and I wound up having my first show at this place called the Education Alliance.
Here in the Bronx in New York?
This was in Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah.
And that inspired you to kind of bring it up to date, and I want to move it forward. So you then ultimately just kept going?
I kept going. I was doing photography and video, and I actually worked here at Lehman College for a couple of years as a video person.
What kind of photography or what kind of photographs for you inspire you the most? Now I know the work, which of course relates to all of us, that is really about the borough, capturing the Bronx is what the project is. But what inspires you? What do you like to do?
Actually, I like to look at things sort of like an archaeologist, and even though I'm not one. But I like to think of how things would look to a generation further down the line, in the future. And so I kind of imagine what would they find? What would they find of interest?
So you want to represent it and represent it for the future, archive it as it were. You use the word archaeologist.
Yes,
All right, you're next. Claricel, when did you start taking pictures?
Well, I want to start off by saying happy anniversary to you.
Thank you very much.
I always work with photographers. My background is in journalism, so I work with photographers. I was a writer and editor, so I pretty much work with them on stories. And so I was always the writer for the most part. And in 2004, more or less, when I was living in Puerto Rico, is when I really started taking pictures. I started originally just taking pictures of the island, of like the regular, places that people know about. Right. But then I pretty much...
And did you do it because you just liked it, or you did it in a way like Ira did because you wanted to show somebody else what was going on?
I wanted to show somebody else. I wanted to share Puerto Rico. At the time, it was I was living in Puerto Rico, and I wanted to share Puerto Rico online with the world. So pretty much for me, it was always important to share the photography. And so that's how I started. And I started documenting many places of the island. And it was really there that I got inspired to like just take the camera every day and shoot.
What really is interesting, and what is, if people may have picked it up or not, a consistent strain, is that it's not a matter for either of you of just taking pictures for the sake of taking pictures. You were doing it, and you were doing it for something else, to use it as a form of communication to somebody else. That it wasn't just, well, these are nice photographs and I like them, but you wanted to show something, kind of make you a photojournalist of sort. What kinds of pictures now to this day inspire you, or do you try to take?
I enjoy taking pictures of, I enjoy storytelling. That's really what I enjoy. And what I try to do is document places. I like to share images of people that are interesting and different. Just in animals. I'm an animal lover, and I enjoy taking pictures of pets, but not necessarily just to take pictures of them and just take them because they're cute. I like to pretty much share these images as a way of, sometimes it's almost like people tell me sometimes the pictures are therapeutic for them to see them.
Greater understanding.
Yeah, greater understanding and awareness of different issues.
And
social justice issues.
And so we'll start with you, and Ira can, of course, weigh in. How did the Bronx Photographers Collaborative come about? We have many wonderful photography groups, and we're all collaborating, and everybody's working together. But tell me how this came about.
Well, I personally, when I relocated to the Bronx, I've been taking pictures here. Like in 2005, 2006, I've been taking pictures of the Bronx throughout. And along the way, online, I started connecting and meeting different people, including Ira and Eileen, and so we started like sort of meeting each other, and we were collaborating. We collaborated along the way on different projects together, and one of my friends, Mike Callender, approached me and said, I'm thinking that I want to start a group of Bronx photographers, because there is a group, a little network of Bronx photographers. We see each other at different events.
Why don't we collaborate,
why don't we collaborate? And it was him and Walter Polfeld, pretty much the first ones that came up with, okay, let's just have a social network of photographers. And Mike Callender just pretty much dispatched an invite to different people, and I started reaching out to my network, and that's how it started growing.
This to me, of course, is the best of the Bronx. People who realize they have something in common. They can be from different places. They have something in common. They work together. And am I getting this wrong? But you have been, of course, a resident of Amalgamated for many, many years, over your whole life, and Amalgamated Houses has helped with some resource and a place to meet and things like that. Do I have that right?
You have that right. Well, what happened was I joined the group officially about a little over a year ago.
Right.
they've been meeting, I guess, 3 years before that.
Johnny, Ira come lately.
Yeah, that's me. So they were meeting at different locations, and I said, you know, after going to 2 meetings, it was like starting all over again at the second
One meeting was here, one meeting was here.
And it was, you know, introducing
no
ourselves again, different people came.
Right.
So I said, you know, I think it would be good to have one place where we could meet, and it would make things organized a little better. So I said, I think that I could get the Amalgamated to have us, give us a room that we could meet in.
And listen, I know the community for as many years as you, and this fits right into the whole philosophy of the education department and everything else. So now, let's very quickly show the full page, which has the information about the gallery, and then we're going to launch right in and we're going to look at pictures. Okay. We all hope we remember whose pictures are who. Regardless, we're going to invite people. So this is Capturing the Bronx. It is coming up October 13th to 15th. That is, I guess Friday night is the opening.
Yes.
At Vladek Hall. Again,
6:30.
6:30 p.m. At Vladek Hall in Amalgamated Houses. And if you wanted more information or even potentially to join, there's the email address. Okay, so these pictures that we're about to look at and many others are going to be up for show.
Yes.
All right, we ready? Everybody got your glasses on? And let's take a look. Let's look at some of the work of, and the order, who knows whose they are? Or what? So what are we looking at? Do we know whose this is?
Yeah, this is Alex, I can't pronounce his last name, Sheila's son.
Okay, Kristevsky.
Right.
Alex Kristevsky.
Yeah,
look
this
at
is of Orchard Beach.
At Orchard Beach. And what's ironic about that, it is not of the water at Orchard Beach, but apparently a puddle.
Yes.
But of course, the beauty of it is the reflection, the lighting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you folks both appreciate your colleagues' work, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Now this I looked at and I was trying to, I mean, is this a Bronx photograph of the Bronx?
So this is
Where would this be?
Dolores, this is Riverdale, the Henry Hudson Parkway.
Oh, the Henry Hudson.
And why it looks a little unusual is she shoots infrared. So it makes the trees sort of like highlighted the lightness of the tree.
So it looks wintry, and of course we don't have as much snow as we used to.
Right.
I'm still fighting with myself to figure out exactly where it is, but I'll take your word for it. Incredible. So, and what I love about this in relation to the pictures we just saw is the contrast between what we just saw and look at this. Do we know who this is or what this is?
Yeah, this is Carol Foresta's photograph. It's of the nursery school, and I think it was, of course, at Halloween.
Yeah, and I guess Mommy is being the one wearing the
mask.
wearing the mask.
And this is.
Whose is this?
This is a picture I took of
your picture.
Of a Puerto Rican casita in Melrose on St. Anne's. And what was interesting about this was that when we actually had the Capturing the Bronx exhibit at Metropolitan College.
A couple of months ago, over the summer?
Earlier this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a guy looking at the picture, the photo very closely, and I approached him and he was like, where did you take this casita at? And I said, on St. Anne's. And he goes, you know, I research casitas and I know all the casitas there is in the Bronx, and I couldn't pinpoint where that casita is. And I said, it's just a casita in between 2 buildings. It's right near here at Metropolitan College. And he was gonna go and look for it because he's doing, he does research on Puerto Rican casitas. So yeah, it's right on St. Anne's.
Right. Before we move to the next photograph, just because if we're looking at the Puerto Rican flag, I just want to ask you, because you are a Puerto Rican, of course, your family, how are people doing? Do we know? Have you been in contact with people in Puerto Rico?
Well,
it'd be hard for me to look at that and be in the Bronx especially and not ask about that, and I think it's important.
Well, I run a project called Puerto Rico Sun, so
yes.
I'm definitely in touch with many people in Puerto Rico. So I know many people are, doing okay, but there is a need for, for food and for water. So there's a lot of people that haven't been able to reach their families, including my mother, who hasn't been able to connect, to find out about her brother. I personally have distant like aunts and cousins and things like that is what I have. But I have many friends. I've been able to connect with people over there,
So
and pretty much I'm spreading the word.
Forward. You know, I'm sorry, we have to do this because it's so important and so current. You can't give enough because the need is so great. And I will tell you, I did an interview on the Bronx Buzz, my other BronxNet program, and I asked whether people were so focused on getting through the day that they can't even look at the future. Like, I'm thinking, gee, how are you going to rebuild? And they say, we haven't even gotten to that yet because the need, the immediate need is just so great. So I'm sorry, we had to digress because when we see that picture, especially in our home borough of the Bronx, we got to talk about it.
And in many of those casitas, those wooden casitas is what was, you know, blown away on the island.
In other words, if something like that would go through it.
And it's, you know, it's important. That's why it's important to have those casitas here in the Bronx as well.
And
it connects us to some of that history and some of that heritage. You know, just driving by or walking by, and all of a sudden you see this casita. So that's why I mentioned the guy that does the research, because it's an important part of our history here, as well as, you know, what's going on the island. We got to rebuild those houses, but more concrete, concrete.
Yeah, we got to do as much as we can. And I'm sorry for digressing because we're having a fun show. Look at these great photographs, but you know, it's real life, and we always want to represent it appropriately.
And in my photography, Puerto Rico is very much a source. I'm always looking for references of Puerto Rico here in the Bronx and in New York. And sometimes I'm documenting, I'm looking at something and it's here in the Bronx, and in my mind it's reminding me of Puerto Rico, but it's here. It's it might be an urban image.
And before we go back to the pictures, and I want to ask each of you, what about I'll start with Claricel, and you'll get the same question. What about the Bronx is so interesting and exciting to photograph? And I have, of course, interviewed so many Bronx photographers, and each one of them, you know, has a different point of view about it, but is compelled to show our culture through photography.
I think it's a place that's not documented as much in photography. When
undiscovered territory.
Yeah, I think so, because like when I first started taking photographing in the Bronx, I remember I was in the hub, and I would you know, take out my camera and take you know, a photo of something, and all of a sudden people are walking by me, and they like looking at what, you know, what
they
is she
didn't see what you saw.
What is she taking pictures of? In Manhattan, I would go and do the same thing, and they would keep walking. They didn't care, you know. Right. And it's the same people, and sometimes people would stop me and ask me, "What are you taking? What are you photographing?" You know. So it's about opening and sharing. To me, it's almost like seeing what I see an image, and you know, it's almost like in my mind, I'm like, I see it, I think it, and I want to share it. I feel like I want to capture that moment.
Which goes back to our original conversation about the fact that it's not a matter of taking the picture and leaving the picture, it's using it to communicate something else. What about the Bronx for you?
Well, I've just come off photographing 6 years in Cortlandt Park.
Okay.
And
I saw that exhibit.
Yeah, it's called Ephemeral. And I wanted to get out of my comfort zone, which is photographing right across the street. And there's a lot of the Bronx that I don't even know. And so I'm trying to get the group of Photography Collaborative to also go to areas that they haven't been before, and to discover. And that's actually our next project.
You know, you guys are on the same page. And I have to tell you, I'm not a photographer, but we do half-hour snapshots of the Bronx every week. And in many ways, it's the same thing that I always say, well, there's something going on here that we need to tell all of us about. And it's a way of looking at ourselves. And I guess in the same way, I'm taking, of course, a different medium and a different type of snapshot. We try to do that every week. Okay, what do we got next? We get the next picture. Let's see what it is. Aha, there's probably everybody watching the TV will know exactly where that is. That is the end of City Island.
Deb. I don't know her last name.
Kowalik.
Huh?
Kowalik.
Debbie Kowalik. All right.
Okay, so we know where it is. It's at City Island. And I thought it was appropriate because it shows we are the end. This is the end
It's
of
the
New
end.
York City into
That's
the
right.
Bronx.
Yeah.
And you can, you know, interpret it, you know, in many different ways.
Well, had I thought of it, we probably should have made it the last photograph
Yeah,
we looked at, but it is not.
No.
So, all right, but beautiful. But, and you know what else I like about that, by the way? Oh, my goodness. Before we even look at that one, I love the colors on it, where the end and the orange in direct contrast.
Right.
All right, this next one looks like either somebody is really good with Photoshop, or they got really lucky, or were skilled.
This is
Lucky.
Eileen
McNamee.
Eileen McNamee, yeah.
Yeah, from her terrace in the Amalgamated, looking over at Riverdale. And what she did was she let the shutter stay open, and so that's how she captured all the different lightning.
That is, I have to tell you, you know, that is some photograph.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it is. And then so she probably shot all night to get a picture like that, although who knows? I'm gonna have to
I don't know how long it took,
Well,
but it
just-
probably took a little while.
Let's put that up one more time so we can
Yeah.
all look at it, how brilliant it is. Look at that
Yeah.
freaking picture. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But it really is just something else. Wow, to have captured that. You know, to have the I guess the three
four-
on the side and this one in the center be
Oh,
the
yeah.
strongest one.
Yeah,
It's just
you know,
incredible.
sometimes you never know.
That's right. All right, keep it going. Again, contrast between one and the other.
Yeah.
Evelyn Katz.
Evelyn Katz, and it's in, I think it's near Manhattan College.
Mm-hmm.
Near Manhattan College.
You know, I feel like I've seen it, and I can't. You know, I can't. I guess that is Manhattan College because
Yeah.
that is the steeple, and that is on the campus of Manhattan College.
No, I don't think
I
so.
can't remember where
I
it
think
is.
it's
Barely matters. Great
Yeah.
photograph. I mean, you know, the figures on the right. Just hope. This is just leave this
Fernand
up for a second. We all want to enjoy this. Where is this?
This is Parkchester.
In Park. You know, we were talking about it before the show where it
Yeah.
was. In Parkchester at the circle right in the
Yes.
center.
So
Fernand Luna.
yeah,
Fernand Luna
Luna.
is the photographer.
Yeah, so you know, part of this is to show the diversity of the Bronx, and so when we did this show, was everyone did pretty much areas that they felt comfortable with, either where they lived or
Now, do we think this was photoshopped or was it actually a snowy night?
it was a
A
snowy
snowy
night.
It was a snowy
Yeah.
night. Let's
Yeah.
take one more look at that before we move to the next one. Wow. It looks like what I love about all of these, it looks like a dream place. What, the Bronx? Are you kidding? Well, of course. Let's see what's next.
That's by Ira
This-
Merritt.
There you go. That's your photograph.
That-
What do you like about this photograph?
I love the way all the women are looking the same, not happy. It was a meeting at the Vladek Hall where our exhibit is going to be, and they are not happy about what's going on in the neighborhood.
I like the different hats.
And the
The
hats.
different hat wear
And the-
there. Let's see, we've got
and the
3 or
hats.
4 different ones.
Yeah. And it shows, you know, diversity of our neighborhood as well.
Sure.
And, you know, I think
right.
it caught the moment.
We got to move on. We're going to
Okay.
run out of time. I want to
Okay.
show all the pictures. Let's see.
And
Oh, this one, I like all of them. I just love this. And
Yeah.
and what I really love, and you need to look at it for a moment, is the the guy leaning out of the window of the train.
this was also mine.
Oh, this was yours. Now, this was not an actual train or a picture of a train.
This is a mural.
A
in the-
mural.
Yeah, in the South Bronx, Melrose area of the Bronx.
Wow. And
But not the guy. The guy is not.
Hmm?
The guy.
Who was walking?
the guy who was walking.
Yeah, no,
Put it
there is
back
a
up.
guy
Yeah,
walking.
there's a guy walking.
The guy
behind-
walking. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
But the walking in front of the mural. That's what
Exactly.
makes it so funny.
Yeah.
But just out of curiosity, did you stand there a long time?
No,
and,
actually, I saw him coming by.
And did you say to yourself, if I can get him right at that spot?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Was it the
Great.
raincoat?
Yeah, well, the raincoat was
The raincoat, of course,
perfect.
the
Yeah.
color,
Yeah.
fantastic. Keep
Yeah.
going. What do we got? All right, this to me is Williamsbridge Oval. Am I correct?
This
Near the
is
Oval.
near, is that Williamsbridge? This is, I think it's near the park,
Yeah.
Oval Park.
Oh, well,
Oh,
Williamsbridge
yeah,
Oval.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
Ba-
Like
Bainbridge
Miriam.
Avenue.
Miriam Quinn,
Miriam Quinn.
And this is Miriam's picture.
yeah.
Wow. We left that one too soon, but that's okay.
That's
This one, of course, goes back in history. You know, it looks like one of these antique places out in the country.
Right, and of course you see City Island Diner, and it's a
by
unique
Mitch,
place.
Mitch
Mitch Blair.
There.
Yeah.
Wow. Tremendous. All right, keep it going. And the saddest part of this is when we run out of photographs.
This
I'm
was-
going to guess it's one of yours, Ira.
No,
No,
I was wrong because you
Sylvia-
took pictures like that.
I did
Yeah.
take pictures
did.
like that.
That's by Sylvia Blumenfield.
Who
Okay.
lives in the neighborhood also.
And, it's
And this was actually a night we met to go to one of the breweries, and it was a rainy night. And
Through a car window, maybe?
this-
yes. Mhm.
Wow.
yeah,
And then look, you know, I could try and describe it for our viewers, but they'll make their own judgments.
Yeah.
Just tremendous. All right, what do we got? Keep going.
and this is Walter
Polfeld.
Walter
Pofeld.
Pofeld. Couldn't be more dramatic.
Yeah, and he does work for Bronx newspapers.
The Bronx Times
Bronx
and some
Times,
others,
yeah.
yes, of course.
So he was covering an event. And,
Right. Boy, you know, it's ironic given the shootings last week and everything
Yeah.
else. My goodness.
yeah.
So
appropriate.
that was, I think that was the last of them. So let's
Yeah.
get the information ready. What is it that people will see when they come the weekend of the 13th to the 15th?
Okay, so there should be around 30 to 34 photographs.
Like
depending-
more than we've seen. Plus,
Yeah.
you'll be able to spend more time. My frustration is we got to move
Right,
on. I want
yeah.
to stay a little more time
And
with them.
yeah, and this is at Vladek Hall.
Mhm.
It's Friday night, 6:30 to 9, I believe. And
Are all the photos going to be the same size? I'm just curious.
they're almost all this. There are two that are a little bit bigger. They're 11 by 14 for the most part,
Right.
and two are 16 by 20.
People can buy prints and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, well, of course. And I just love the idea. You buy a piece of the Bronx, you help Bronx art, and it's great.
We're actually building, as part of the project, the Capturing the Bronx is an ongoing project, so we're still working the theme. And what the idea is, what we would like to do is sort of like we're building an archive of the Bronx using these images. So we're actually still also looking for feedback from the community on places that we should go cover and take take
So,
photos
so
of.
now this is the second in the series. In other words, you had the one at Metropolitan College.
This is
We're
the
going to have to go.
Yeah,
okay?
this is the same photographs that were at Metropolitan College.
Great.
But we are starting a new project.
And the capturing the Bronx project itself is ongoing because
Right.
we're actually going to have an exhibition in 2018 at Poe, and it's going to be a whole new set of images.
Well, listen, you guys are just doing great work. Thank you for
Thank you.
capturing the Bronx for us all, the Bronx Photographers Collaborative. Thank you for helping me celebrate the 23rd anniversary of
it was
our
fun.
program. And to our friends and neighbors in the Bronx, if you have further questions or comments, or you want to make comments about the photographs, please do. On anything you heard on the show or anything going on in the Bronx.
Or if they may be interested photographers.
Or if you
who
want to be a photographer, let me know and I'll make sure they get
Okay.
to you. You can send us that email at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org. You can send a tweet at BronxTalk or post them on our Facebook page and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of the show. You can check out our archives at bronxnet.org. You'll find Bronx Talk by following the Watch menu on the new BronxNet website. Once again, thank you to Michael Max and Marissa at BronxNet, to all the wonderful people who have worked on Bronx Talk over the last 23 years, including tonight's producer, Lindsay Violet, and director, William Guzman. But mostly, thank you to you, because it is you who makes Bronx Talk and the Bronx what it is. And after 23 years, what am I going to say? We'll see you next week. Good night.